Hi and welcome to the BuildMate Podcast, India's #1 construction podcast. Today I'm sitting with architect Siddharth Agrawal from Builten. He is a BIM specialist and we are talking about BIM in general, and we are talking about the challenges in the implementation of BIM in the Indian construction industry. Hi Siddharth, thank you for coming here. आज सुबह सुबह मैंने आपको तंग कर दिया संडे वाले दिन, and you've taken your time out. I'm extremely grateful to you.
I'm pleased to be here. I'm pleased to share my thoughts.
Thank you so much. You want to add something to that introduction of that I gave about you, or do you want to tell something more about you and your company?
So, I'm an architect, graduated from IIT Roorkee, and just like any other one, joined the job and then realized I'm not meant for it.
Yeah.
And eventually, like as you mentioned, I work in BIM. So I got exposed to BIM quite early in my career, and that has been a pivotal moment in my career, like I would say. And that changed how I think, and that has been the philosophy of my company, Builten. We are a 100% BIM-enabled company. We have been working on BIM since our inceptions. We had our fair share of struggle implementing BIM in India, and I think today's talk is towards that, leaning towards that.
Yeah.
And so it's all about my journey. I am passionate about BIM. I want to see in my career's time that BIM pans out in India in a good fashion, and it gives the benefit which it can in Indian construction landscape.
शुरू करते हुए सबसे पहले before we get into the details and the challenges and thereafter, आप सबसे पहले ये बताओ कि BIM है क्या exactly?
So to start with BIM, it's easier to say what BIM isn't, and that should be that should give a clear picture.
Okay.
BIM is not 3D, not just 3D, not 3D CAD, not 3D SketchUp, not a virtual 3D model. It is a philosophy. It is a way of working. Just like we had the way of working of computer-aided design 30-35 years back, and that was the developmental approach towards how the industry worked at that time. During that period, people used to work on big papers. Engineers used to draft out big plans over large sheet of papers. That changed to computer-aided design. That was the need of the hour.
Yeah.
The scale was getting bigger, and it was needed.
Something similar to in mechanical engineering. हमारे में भी होता है ना, Six Sigma, or there's something also called continuous improvement. That's what we've learned during our car.
Exactly. That's how the car, in fact, good analogy will be automotive industry.
Yeah.
Automotive industry works on scale clay models. But before arriving to the clay model, they also work upon CAD, 3D development of the entirety of the model. They work on aerodynamics, and then they do check that aerodynamics on a clay scale model. And then they go for production.
Yes.
So that's the industrial approach of perfecting things. That does not happen in construction, in the traditional process. And that's where BIM helps. BIM is like working in virtual environment, working in an environment wherein you are allowed to make mistakes and rectify it without any extra added cost. And you make sure that you do not make those mistakes on ground to save cost, to save money, to save time. And it also has an environmental impact. So the broader picture is BIM is not just 3D. It is a way of working. It's a thought process. It's a different approach than the CAD.
Okay. And layman term में आपको किसी को explain करना हो तो?
So you work twice. You construct twice basically. Once in virtual environment and then in reality. In virtual environment, you do the drills, you do the dimensional check, you do the clash detection, so we call in our industry. You do check the alignments, you do check all the technical aspects, and you see things are fine. And like you are seeing everything in 3D. So again, like it is not just 3D. 3D is an enabler. There are a lot of things which are related to information which goes beyond 3D. But as humans, we are more it's much easier for us to understand any sort of thing in a three-dimensional environment, because we are trained, we are biologically trained in that manner. We can understand a 3D. A layman can understand a space by looking at it at 3D, but they will not be able to understand the drawing, because drawing is a language. we are specialized to understand that language. Not everybody is specialized. So that's the difference. And it should be a generalized, there should be a generalized approach, and it should be open for for the entire industry as well as outsiders, because people should be able to understand the space. And that's where BIM adds.
Okay. When you say, I love the, when you said ki hum do baar banate, we build twice, one in virtual world, one in reality. That actually resonates with the ideology, right? Because when you're constructing that twice, एक do-over मिल रहा है आपको. You make lesser mistakes in the real world. There's that tangible cost which goes down. Time management becomes better, right? But BIM is not just about designing. It's a project cycle phase sort of a thing, right? It's a whole, the lifetime of the BIM philosophy runs through the project cycle, not just design phase, correct?
So that's an interesting point, and I think this is something which is the analogy of iceberg will suit here. Iceberg, a small part of iceberg is visible above water. The majority of the part is beneath the water. You can't see it. You can't visualize it. How much of a big iceberg is that can go with BIM, because what we see or what anybody else will see is just the 3D part or just the basics. What goes behind BIM is information, the working, the life cycle. A building is not just constructed. The documentation which we do, the design drawings we do are not just for construction. They are also for management. Project management, facility management. And I think in India, it is a highly underrated market when it comes to facility management. Facility management is not well understood in India. People do not understand about building life cycle. What is building life cycle? This terminology might be new for a lot of individuals, specifically students. Like, what is building life cycle? Building life cycle is, once the building is constructed, the building requires a lot of maintenance. It's like an living body, living entity. Like, we also require a lot of maintenance. Similarly, building requires a lot of repair, maintenance. And that's where BIM helps. So if I have to put it in a very simple manner, the construction industry is fragmented. Once during the construction, then you pass on the design documents to a set of individuals who maintain their hard copy. And every time they have to do some sort of maintenance, they go through all the hard copies, try and understand what was built, which thought process it was built. And then they do the reverse engineering and they do come to a solution. It is inefficient, first of all. It is inaccurate, secondly. And that's where all game lies. So BIM tries to eliminate that. BIM is based on that philosophy that one single common source of data should prevail since the inception of the construction project till the entire life cycle of the construction project. So that is what BIM is. You can do facility management using BIM. You can exactly know what can go wrong if there is a leakage in a building by looking at the BIM model. You can check through the building pipe services. Okay, there are certain drain pipes going from here. So there might be a chance of leakage here. You should not drill here because there is some pipe going through. If we do that, there might be a damage to the building.
Or some sort of a hazard.
Exactly. In good point which you mentioned, I would like to raise, आज की buildings पुरानी बिल्डिंगों जैसी नहीं है, simple buildings नहीं है. We just do not have simple three-dimensional spaces covered with general lighting, fans, or simple wall-mounted air conditioners. We have entirety of set of IT infrastructure going on, electrical infrastructure going on, copper piping going on. In commercial buildings, a lot of other services go along. In hospital,
STP पूरा अलग बनता है.
Exactly. In hospital buildings, gas pipes go along.
Rainwater harvesting.
So all those things go along above the ceiling, below the floor, and you never know what you can hit.
And they're all concealed. वो करने
Exactly. They are all concealed. And once something is concealed, nobody can visualize.
You don't know where it is.
Exactly. To having a BIM model in FM, you can visualize. You can look through all those elements. You can always check for which purpose this pipe is. By removing, surely you can do. People will say, ceiling remove करके आप देख सकते हो, pipe पे समझ सकते हो. But that person will only be able to see one portion of it, not the entirety of it. You can visualize the entirety of it using BIM. So that's the benefit. So although it's highly technical, but again, it's a technical field. So you cannot expect a non-technical answer on that. So
I know what you mean. And with the advent of new technologies, I think BIM is going to become a norm in the future.
It should become a norm in the future. India is lacking on that.
Okay.
And we'll definitely elaborate on that. But
I want to talk about, before we go there, I want to talk about the implementation of BIM and how it's done. एक building के कई facets होते हैं, right? For example, there's a design team, and there are some special consultants, then there is somebody who's a contractor, then there's a special subcontractor. कई सारी agencies लगी होती हैं. क्या BIM, does it help basically unify them in a way, or help with that back and forth with these different agencies as well? Or can we create a process using BIM?
Yeah, there are proven process. Before that, I would like to give a analogy. In a construction industry, how things work. A design documentation is prepared and it is passed on to the concerned parties, usually the project stakeholders.
Okay.
And they do go through the drawings. They pass on to the construction people on site, and then things are executed. And as I mentioned earlier, drawing is a language. Not everybody understands it.
And not everybody understands it in the same way.
Exactly. So there's a Chinese whisper going on.
Yeah.
So I want to do something else as a designer.
Yeah.
It is communicated in a different manner. It is executed in a different manner.
Yeah.
Then that cycle, when we inspect site, okay, I wanted it this way and it's not happening this way. I need it to be changed, because again, my design intent will change, the outcome will change.
Yeah.
Then that cycle of repetition, reworking goes on. So
the VR to ye ho ki all the agencies are present there at the same time.
Exactly.
That's not possible.
That's not possible. That's not practical. Yeah. So the point which you raised, can all agencies coordinate with one another in a
unified
common environment, in a unified manner? Yes, they can. That's where BIM comes into picture.
Okay.
So the technical part which we call in the industry is common data environment. What is common data environment? Common data environment is, the analogy here is, if this mug is filled with water, if you drop a single drop of ink, it will spread out evenly.
Yeah.
So here the droplet of that ink is information. And the entire mug filled with water, you can assume that as a stakeholder. The information is spread out evenly to everybody else. The information is put into that pool of people and they all know instantly.
Oh.
So that is BIM. That is BIM. We work on a common data environment. It is a single source of truth. I might be an originator of that document as an architect, as a designer, but I'm not the owner of the document. There are other stakeholders. And that's where the thought process of architectural community also needs to change.
Okay.
We are also, I strongly believe in this philosophy that as an architect, as a designer, our role is significant, but it is very small in a construction project. In a construction project, a lot of individuals come together who might not have worked earlier with each other.
Yes, exactly.
And they have to work together. And not everybody works in the same manner. And setting up that process, setting up that communication is a different ball game. It's a very difficult challenge. And we individuals have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. Be it a small renovation project, be it a home building, be it an office building, be it a factory, be it an industry cluster, kuch bhi ban jaye.
And talk about infrastructure project.
Oh.
The scale goes on and on.
The same challenge lies everywhere.
Exactly.
But it's bigger in a bigger scale.
And it's exponential.
Yeah.
So that's where common data environment can play a very key role. Like all the information has been fed up in one single model, one single source of truth. So common data environment and single source of truth are two words for one single set of information. So that set of information is accessible to everyone, with restrictions, obviously, because it's, again, we are talking about information, and information is a very big part of BIM. That information cannot go to every individual at every level. One guy who is working on site, they require certain set of information. They should have the access to that information. The other set of individuals who are planner, who are procurement guys, who are accountants, they need different set of information. They should get access to different set of information. So you yourself are into building products. You must be getting POs from different companies.
Yes.
There is a specification written on PO. How many times you must have faced that the information in the PO has been wrong information, and the order, when it was delivered on site, the site engineer says, okay, this was not something I required. I didn't communicated this.
Yeah.
But this happens. Why this happens? Because there is a broken chain of communication. And that broken chain of communication is the reason of inefficiency in construction.
Yes. Happens every second day.
Exactly. So why we lack in efficiency? Why cannot we build projects like it is happening in China? Because we are not yet there. We are not adopting the new core technologies which are required with complex buildings like of the likes we are having today.
Yeah.
And unless we adopt it, the efficiencies cannot be attained. That's a fact.
Interesting. When you talk about implementation of BIM, can you guide us? For example, जैसे मैं building को जब visualize करता हूँ, so I look at the structure. That still seems to me like the simplest part of the building, right? Then there are so many things. Floor अलग बनना है, walls अलग बननी है, windows अलग लगनी है, doors अलग लगने हैं, उसके अंदर फिर आपके bathrooms, kitchens अलग आने हैं, wardrobes अलग आनी हैं. Structure के core elements जो हैं वो हैं अपनी जगह, but वो भी अलग तरीके से डिज़ाइन हो रहे हैं, and everybody is designing them differently. Architects शायद सारी drawings दे रहे हैं, बट जो एजेंसीज उनको एग्जीक्यूट कर रही हैं वो अपनी ड्राइंग्स अलग बना रहे हैं. फ्लोर ड्राइंग, शॉप फ्लोर ड्राइंग्स अलग बनती हैं, एंड देन दे आर मेड इन द फैक्ट्री एंड देन दे आर असेंबल्ड टुगेदर. फर्नीचर अलग बन रहा है. देयर आर सो मेनी कंपोनेंट्स. BIM unifies all of that together, correct?
BIM unifies all of that together. So interesting point. So what is the process in construction industry? A lot of people who are working in the industry, professionals, will understand it.
Yeah.
A documentation is produced. When I say documentation, a drawing is produced.
Yes.
We call it documentation because again it's easier. A drawing is a very basic term which you use in college.
Absolutely.
So, fair enough. The documentation is produced, and that documentation again is taken for quantification. That quantification along with the document is given to the contractor. Contractor bids. They in India again, L1 gets the contract. We'll come to that point.
Yeah.
So that L1 guy will now start working on the project on the side. There will be certain components for which he has to produce a shop drawing. So what is the concept of shop drawing? Shop drawings or the products or the services or the elements which the contractor is going to make, customize things, or any vendor is going to make, they will submit the shop drawings to you.
Yes.
And then those shop drawings will be approved by you as an individual, as a own author of the document. You will approve those shop drawings, and then that will go into the production. So one good part of BIM is it works on productized approach or model based approach, wherein what if we can remove this shop drawing approval process? Can we remove it? Good question is that, like, can we remove it? We need to ask this question, because by removing that approval process, it's obvious that we cannot remove it from everywhere.
Yes.
But from where can we remove it? That's an important question. If we can remove it, we can remove that entire chain of communication. What if I know that this particular product is going to be used? Since I'm the author, we most of the time define ki I want this sort of product based on the needs. And when this sort of product is going to be used, if I have the shop drawing with me initially while designing it,
then it can be eliminated.
And how BIM helps? The vendors, the guys who are making the product, they provide BIM model. You can ask them that provide BIM model. I will feed that information initially in the project into the system. So it will have all your specs, it will have all your dimensions, and then I will not face the challenge of reworking again and again.
Yeah.
And that reduces the cost implication, the labor implication, the complexity of communication as well. So like this is a very basic example which I can give you how BIM can be used. Because let's just say we are going to purchase a furniture like this. Yeah. If I have the model with all the details from the vendor itself available with me, I can put it into the model.
Yeah. And it's there, it's set. Ab jab wo banna hai, it can just immediately go into production.
Exactly.
Right? The quantities will be there. The specifications will be there. Everything is ready for you to actually start cracking on the manufacturing process.
Exactly.
Reduces time, reduces that communication. वो communication एक बहुत बड़ी problem है.
It's a Chinese whisper. Always.
That's a huge problem.
Exactly.
It happens every day with me. So हम लोग door windows बनाते हैं तो उसके अंदर में क्या होता है कि let's say a building has 200 windows. that 200 window site survey does not happen ever in one go. Never happens. But if we can adopt something like this, then I think it can work like that, right?
Exactly. And it's not just one part. You mentioned very good point that site survey does not happen in one go.
Yeah.
Because we as Indian, construction is always considered as a low-tech industry in India. And that is a challenge because anybody who's gonna, like, let's say we work for client and it's rare to find a client who believes in an institutional approach towards a project. Everybody in India, because it's a developing market, we all have gone through this phase. Everybody or majority of the people must have seen the construction of their house, some part at least in front of them, or they have called labor from chalk and get it done as per their understanding.
Yes.
And the guy next door who is supplying hardware must have supplied door, must have supplied wash basin, like all those sort of products.
Sir, budget ही नहीं होता था ना professionals को hire करने के लिए पहले.
Exactly. So ये challenges रहे इंडिया में, तो हर कोई सोचता है कि कंस्ट्रक्शन एक लो टेक इंडस्ट्री है.
मैंने तो बना रखा है पहले, मुझे तो पता है.
But it is not low tech.
4 घर बनाए पहले, आप मुझे बता रहे हो.
Exactly. So that is the mindset. People do not understand that it is not low tech industry.
Yeah.
Precision is what matters in our industry. Why do you need to do surveys of all 200 windows when you know that all 200 windows will, if a good team, a skilled team is employed on site, you will not have faced the challenge of getting those 200 windows surveyed on
5
site.
5 times, 7 times, 10 times.
Exactly. There are exceptions. There are shapes which cannot be achieved perfectly on site.
Customized also. And there are...
Those are exceptions, and that's well understood.
Yeah.
And accounted for. But regular rectangular windows can easily be made.
Yes.
And they should be.
Yeah.
That precision is important. That does not happen. This is an industry-wide challenge where people think it's a low-tech industry. And since it's a low-tech industry, the perception is a low-tech industry, the cost factor is also there. In India, everybody works on a direct cost model, which we were talking about earlier. It's a very big challenge. Like we only think of the direct cost which we are investing. We do not think about the cost of our time. We do not think about the cost of the tension which we take. We do not think about the cost of the reworking.
Absolutely.
We do not consider all those things.
Reworking का तो पता ही नहीं है ना किसी को कि लगनी कितनी है बाद में.
Exactly.
और वो लगती है हर केस में. Every project goes through some sort of reworking in some sort of aspect, in some sort of nook and corner of the building. भले ही वो it's a balcony, even if it's a terrace planning, even if it's a bathroom planning, things get broken down, get rebuilt again. Okay, this is not looking good, change it. This is not looking good should have been decided much earlier. And you're deciding it when it's already done. This happens every day.
And who is paying for that? The client is paying.
The client is paying.
What is the cost? If you go for the cost implication, it can vary from anywhere from 3 to 5% of the cost.
Yeah, minimum.
Easily. And
pilferage. If I understand that BIM gives you a procurement book, right? It gives you the quantities, the bill of quantities it's created by BIM, right? It tells you how much steel is going to go in your structure. It tells you कितने बैग आपका cement लग जाएगा if you're using cement. Otherwise, तो आजकल RNC use हो रही है. It tells you about the small aspects and it gives you that detail in proper place, right? Plus minus 2%, let's say 3%. But if it's already there with you, you don't occur a lot of pilferage.
And one important point is you get that information instantaneously. Let's just say you are a client sitting with me right now and you ask, Siddharth, tell me, let's just say this is the entire floor plate is of 10,000 square feet and I need to cast the entire floor plate. How much concrete are we going to use? I can just select that and give you the accurate cubic meter concrete which is required. I can give you the volume instantaneously.
Otherwise होता कैसे है आपको पता है ना?
Manually you need to take the dimension.
Sir, लगभग इतना लगेगा.
Exactly. You take the dimension, you do on CAD, you draw out dimension, you calculate it.
We waste a lot of natural resource. We supply RMC to a site, right? Let's say there was 80 cubic required for that particular plate of slab. Usually 7 into a number, it will be 84 that will be delivered, right? Which 4 cubic is going to go waste. And then the client gets angry, does not want to pay for it, but their contractor or somebody took a decision कि 84 चाहिए. because they didn't want to fall short on it. And you're wasting that 4 cubic. It's a natural resource. Cement lag raha, aggregate lag raha, everything is in there. Plus, you're bleeding money. That cost in itself.
Somebody's gonna bear it.
Yeah, and that cost in itself could have been bared before to hire that right professional or that right technology in place.
True that. And that does not happen in India. So that's one area of aspect where we as a market are not mature. So that's something we face on a day-to-day basis. And I remember my journey. We started with that we will bring BIM, implement BIM in projects. People did not understand the value of BIM, what we were offering. Somebody, a senior guy running a big company, once told, people do not value time in India. And I was young at that time, and I was like, what are you talking about? And yeah, market teaches everybody. We got taught that market does not care about time investment in India, at least in construction industry. लोगों को पता ही नहीं है प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट या मैनेजमेंट इन कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री होता क्या है. चैलेंज वहाँ पे है, लोग वैल्यू क्या करेंगे उसकी भारत में. तो दैट इज द इशू.
पीपल डोंट वांट टू हायर पीएमसी. आज नहीं करना चाहते.
दे डोंट.
लोग मौका पड़ जाए आर्किटेक्ट नहीं रखना चाहते. आप पीएमसी की बात.
बिल्कुल.
आई थिंक मैं किससे बात कर रहा था अभी. दिस वाज 2 days back. I was talking to this friend of mine. He's a civil engineer, sir. He works with a major cement company. And I was just telling him how I'm in forwarded talks with another company to actually feature a technical talk. And I told him that I've been invited to a certain college to give a certain guest lecture on careers for civil engineers. He said, boss, 80% of the universities in India, engineering universities, engineering colleges, are removing civil engineering from their curriculum because children don't opt for it. I'm like, why is that happening? Construction तो second major contributor है हमारे GDP का. ये तो contributor GDP का है, लेकिन professionals के लिए नहीं है वो. People don't want to hire professionals. That's a huge fallacy that we have in our own system.
So India at an institutional level, at a countrywide level, have big issues with the policies. That's where we faced it during our initial days, understanding, observing, getting brutal hits by market wherein people did not value our service. And it is true because there is no threshold in Indian market. So big challenge is that there is no threshold. Anybody, India, as we talked up earlier, everybody has an experience in construction. So yes. India is an experience driven market. People are like, I have done it, I can do it. They come into picture and they get it done. However, what we need in the industry, education plus experience, a subject matter expert with an experience. That is what is required. And subject matter experts, who are subject matter experts in construction, architects, civil engineer, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, those are subject matter experts. People do not want to hire them. As a consultant, we faced a lot of difficulties pitching for project when somebody approached us and we mentioned to them that we are going to charge this much. What is the value addition? Aap naksha hi to banaoge. That was the simplest statement which we received. And we as an architect are trying to solve the problems which you will not even know existed. That is the thought process with which we work. And the problem is, since you do not know the problem, that's why you're not valuing it.
Yeah.
And that persists till date.
Do you think that kills the joy sometimes in your profession?
It does. There are days when you think, why am I
even doing this?
Yeah, why am I even doing it? Why am I in construction? And that time, the only thing which drives you, being a kid, looking at big skyscrapers, big construction happening all around, watching those documentaries and getting fascinated, that drives you. So I think that kid in you will always drive you for the crazy things which you do in life, and that is a constant.
Nice. But you found good clients as well, right? Who understand what you're doing, and now they stick by the philosophy of BIM.
So I would say it has been the reverse. So we, as I was talking to you earlier, during our initial days, we faced quite a lot of difficulties explaining people why do we do things the way we do.
Okay.
We were trying to jolt out the benefits of BIM to the clients, and they were not able to understand. And then we literally sat on the board and thought, what should we change? Because market is the thing which will drive us, not we can drive market. So we implemented it as a process, and like we never talked about BIM to anybody in our initial days. We didn't even try to like persuade a client with BIM. We were like, we will give you output, whatever output you want in our initial days. And we gave them the output in good quality, in better precision, in a fast manner. And then there came a time when that client came back and asked, you gave the output quite fast and it was quite accurate. ऐसे होता नहीं है, इतना मिला नहीं मेरे को. How did you do it? And then we explained him the back-end philosophy. Okay, we do it in this manner. Come to our office, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And and then they start to understand the value. And
I think this is how it works, right? कुछ भी नया करने में पहले एक challenge मिलता है, and then when you see the benefit of it, people are like, अच्छा ये क्या है? Show me, not tell me, right? This is with anything. It's tough for people to move from the norm and move into the new, right? ये हमेशा ही रहेगा. I think ये थोड़ा सा human psychology है.
So it's a law of physics.
It is the law of physics, right?
Inertia is like you would want to be in the state in which you are. You would not want to change your state.
Right.
So that is perfectly applicable
and
to
it is
India.
the easiest thing to maintain status quo.
Exactly.
जहाँ बैठे वहाँ बैठे रहना बहुत आसान है.
Exactly.
Than to actually adapt. And I love the fact that you said construction in India is still considered as a low-tech industry. That is soon changing. Everything is changing. GFRP बार्स के बारे में बात हो रही थी 2 साल पहले. PIS कोड आ चुका है, चालू हो चुका है. UHPC के बारे में बात हो रही थी. UHPC गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट में लग रहा है, हाईवेज में लग रहा है, ब्रिजेस में लग रहा है. बात हो रही थी 2 साल पहले, सिर्फ बात हो रही थी. 3D कंस्ट्रक्शन, 3D बिल्डिंग्स के बारे में, 3D प्रिंटेड बिल्डिंग्स के बारे में बात हो रही थी. शुरू हो चुका है. L&T has already done couple of jobs. And not just here, like जम्मू कश्मीर में एक उन्होंने बना दिया है, चंडी मोहाली के अंदर एक उन्होंने created a huge building which is the biggest 3D printed building in the world. L&T is done in India. तो काम तो हो रहे हैं. टेक्नोलॉजी इवॉल्व तो कर ही रही है, ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं हो रहा है. I swear when I tell people the benefit of internet, even today, I have a podcast. मैं ऑनलाइन हूँ, इंटरनेट पे हूँ. विदाउट इंटरनेट व्हाट इज दिस पॉडकास्ट? नथिंग, राइट?
Yeah.
Dish TV is dead, sir. Tata Sky is dying slowly. Everybody is moving to your mobile phones and your mobile devices, and you're watching everything on an app now, right? Be it YouTube, be it Netflix, be it anything else. You are moving away from the norm. अब शुरू में तो लोगों ने कहा यार क्या है, अब everybody is on Netflix. पैसा ज़्यादा लेता है Netflix, but everybody is on Netflix. कोई छोड़ता नहीं है उसको. And everybody is moving towards this now. I still have a challenge explaining to people that this is the place to be. Internet is the place to be. And internet नहीं sir, अब तो metaverse आ गया. AI is changing everything in your tech, right? We are still a little behind in India. अभी भी हम थोड़ा पीछे हैं. लोग बहुत आगे बढ़ चुके हैं इसमें. But I think that adaptation, like we said, inertia, moment of inertia वाला game.
I'll take one stance from your point. Netflix. So it's an OTT platform.
Yeah.
You have the convenience to watch any content at any given point in time, wherever you are. Let's just say if you have the same convenience with construction documents.
Wow.
What will happen?
कितनी बड़ी बात है ये?
So, assuming you are going back home, you cannot watch or look at a drawing in your car. Open up a big drawing and look up, and not even you can open up a laptop, but phone is in your pocket. You can always walk through buildings.
Yes.
At phone.
In your existing building, a repair job is supposed to happen, an extension is supposed to happen. You want to build another floor on top of your building. आपकी drawings existing थी, आप उन्हीं को consult करेंगे तुरंत, immediately, right? And not in a very 2D way or a 3D way. It's a very intrinsic way. You can actually आप सारा उठा के उल्टा पुल्टा करके अंदर pipes के अंदर घुस सकते हो अपनी उस पूरे modeling के अंदर.
Let's just say you are a FM guy, facility management guy. Somebody, you are going back home from work. But again, if a building is facing some sort of glitch or some sort of service issue, it has to be resolved immediately because a lot of people are working in that building.
Yeah.
You cannot stop the operations. And that's the crude reality of our industry. We have to work 24/7.
Exactly.
And that's where people do not understand where tech comes in, how much tech is involved, how much technically skilled people are in our industry.
Yeah.
So that guy who is going back to home, sitting at back seat, can look at his phone, access those drawings on his phone, that entire 3D model on that phone, and tell, okay, this can go wrong. Ask the repair guy to specifically look for this section of the building and look for this particular problem. That guy is using his intellect along with that information which is present on the cloud, and he can access that information with his mobile device and ask or instruct that guy who's working on the ground, specifically look for these signs. If these signs are there, then this can be the issue. If these signs are there, this can be the issue.
Yeah, you identify the problem, you
exactly
immediately chalk down the solution.
Exactly,
right?
and
it's all instant.
Instead of looking for 10 different problems, 10 different aspects, you're looking for 2.
Yeah,
and out of those 2, you can it's easy to sort out with less variables.
It's not just a game changer for the construction industry with new build section. It is also a game changer for retrofitting.
It is.
For rehabilitation of the building. I had a guest on my podcast earlier before, Mr. Vineet Jain, civil engineer hai, structural engineer hai, काफी साल से practice कर रहे हैं. He's from DC. He told me that he rehabilitated a MTNL building back. मुंबई की बिल्डिंग थी, if I'm not wrong. तो वो बिल्डिंग अब टेलीफोन एक्सचेंज है, वहाँ सारे आपकी लाइंस डली हुई हैं, and you can't disrupt it. It has to work 24/7. उस बिल्डिंग की rehabilitation करने में उन्हें कितने challenges आए थे, he told me about it. Similar is true with data centers now. Data center के जो भी buildings हैं, and if some sort of a job has to go through, the data center cannot stop functioning. It will bring down the entire system, entire networks, right? And वो ज़माने चले गए कि वो खंबा रिप्लेस हो रहा है तो जी खंबा हट गया, लाइट थोड़ी देर बंद रहेगी थी. वो टाइम जा रहा है धीरे धीरे. In fact, even electrical systems are supposed to be created in a way where people can work without disrupting the entire network.
Exactly. There has to be redundancies.
सिद्धार्थ, ये बताइए आप, what is the importance of BIM in the AEC industry? वैसे तो हम मोटा मोटी we've covered pretty much everything, but let's jot down the major benefits of BIM in AEC.
So, roughly speaking, we have covered quite a few things. क्या benefits हैं, क्या pros हैं BIM के, और क्या traditional methodologies हैं और उनके challenges कहाँ पे lie करते हैं. So, to brief it out, BIM in construction landscape, how it helps. So, as you know, in the current working environment, we are post-COVID work environment. People are working from home. So, how the collaboration is happening right now, how other big corporates or other companies or software companies are working. They are collaborating cloud on cloud. They are working on cloud. We, in one form or another, also work on cloud individually. And the same thing applies to BIM as well. BIM transcends geographies, it transcends boundaries. So not in terms of construction, it brings the collaboration closer. So BIM is based on collaboration. The soul of BIM is collaboration. So we can collaborate with any geography. We are sitting here, the project is in Northeast. Some subject matter expert might be from Mumbai. Some can be out of India as well. So it helps you collaborate in a common data environment, in a co-hosted model, in a co-hosted environment wherein everybody can work on single file. So
across different regions,
across different time zones, at their own suitable time, and they are well aware what you have done. They will work according to that. So that way BIM helps.
So actually expanding that and casting a wider net. आज मुझे अगर कोई consultant बाहर से चाहिए, I can hire somebody from Korea, from
why not
China, from anywhere, and we can collaborate on a project together.
Exactly, because the horizons are growing all together. The requirement of construction industry is growing all together. You want to build something which is highly technical, and nobody in India can do it. Either you would compromise on it, or you would hire somebody from outside India.
Yes, exactly.
And if those guys are working and they have to come to India regularly, who's going to bear that cost? And if they do not need to come to India and they can work remotely on it, that cost is drastically reduced. So that way BIM helps. Collaboration is the key, single source of truth, as we mentioned, benefits of BIM. And virtually building it before building it on ground.
Like you said,
we can make mistakes, as many as we want, in a 3D environment, in a virtual environment, and we can rectify our mistakes. Because we are human beings. Everybody is prone to human error. We consultants also make mistakes, and being humble about it and accepting is like something which will as a community grow.
Yeah.
So, and that can be reduced. Clash detection, and again, one very important point we will be able to understand is value engineering.
Yeah.
So you are working on a data driven environment wherein, let's just say, if we reduce the height of building, like if we work upon a design and the costing or estimated costing comes out to be little bit out of budget or expected, going higher than expected, how do you do the value engineering? One is thumb rule, one is quality reduction, one is basically reducing the specs or reducing the amenities you want to provide.
Yeah.
Those are the aspects of value engineering. But let's just say you do not want to compromise on quality, which is not the first thought. We as a consultant or as a designer will never compromise on quality at the first thought. So what we do, we can work upon the data.
Yeah.
We can get the feedback from the model instantaneously. Let's just say we reduce the height of the building.
Okay.
On every floor. It's a high-rise building. If we reduce the height of the building by, let's just say, 100 mm on each floor in a 50-story building or a 25-story building, how much height we have reduced? Almost 2500 mm. एक floor का height हमने reduce कर लिया.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by doing that, can we reduce the quantity? Yes, we have reduced the quantity of the brickwork. We have reduced the quantity of the column work.
Yeah.
That will have some sort of impact on cost. Similarly,
but that impact is shown to you real time, immediately, instantaneously.
Exactly. I can do that instantaneously. I do not have to revise everything.
You don't have to rework on every aspect of the building.
Exactly. If I'm working on, since I'm working on 3D model,
yeah,
the drawings are made instantaneously. Definitely there is a post-production which goes on.
Yeah.
Adding the information which is visual information on the drawing, it is required. But that hardcore data instantly is revised. And that revised data can give you instant feedback. So it is a data-driven environment.
And it gives you instant feedback on every aspect, right?
Exactly.
मतलब वो आपके BOQs भी change हो जाएंगे, everything related to the entire model changes, right?
Entire model, everything related to entire model will change.
With that small change and everything is in shape instantaneously. Amazing.
Benefit of BIM is in facility management, entire life cycle of the project. Different stakeholders can order products from it, check the specifications on it. In facility management, I'm emphasizing on facility management again and again because I want to, as a designer, like we know the importance of facility management. As a construction individual, I know the importance of facility management. People do not. In India, in general, community do not. And it's an important career as well. People do go into facility management. So for students out there, it's
a huge business.
Exactly.
Huge business.
None of the Indian companies are doing it.
Yeah.
Most of them are MNCs, mostly from US. They are into India doing all the FM. Like somebody can start an FM business in India based out of BIM.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna skyrocket because huge corporate parks need to be managed.
सर कितने प्रोजेक्ट्स आज चल रहे हैं, कितनी हजारों लाखों बिल्डिंगें पहले बनी हुई हैं और उन सब की मेंटेनेंस चाहिए. And it's not just maintenance post damage, it is maintenance while running.
Exactly. How do you maintain a building in its current state so that it can sustain and serve the purpose it was made for?
Facility management हो रहा है इंडिया में, लेकिन वो एक मैनुअल लेबर के पॉइंट तक तो हो रहा है. They are not expanding it to the part where they have to maintain the building in a proper way. And people have that vision. But I think वो resources धीरे धीरे gather हो रही हैं and that know-how is there. Again, like you said, right, हम वो tangible cost के बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा सोचते हैं. Tangible return क्या मिलेगा?
Exactly.
मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ facility manage अपनी?
बहुत ही cost sensitive market है इंडिया.
Exactly.
So और हम इस cost sensitiveness पे भी आएंगे. क्यों BIM का implementation इंडिया में slow है? वो भी बहुत बड़ा challenge है अभी. So yeah, majorly these are the benefits. And to jolt out, there are many more, but that's whole list of advantages which BIM can bring.
हमारा ये पूरा टाइम बस उसी में निकल जाएगा advantages की लिस्ट करने में.
Exactly.
Absolutely right. अब आ जाते हैं कोर बात पे. प्रॉब्लम क्या है इंडिया में और सबसे ज़्यादा चैलेंज क्या है towards adoption of BIM in India? Some of the points that you want.
So talking about
और हम कॉस्ट पे थे तो शायद पहले कॉस्ट पे आ जाते हैं फिर बाकी हम कवर कर लें. Yeah, cost.
Like we can go on, but as you mentioned about problems, so फॉर प्रॉब्लम्स आई वुड अगेन रीस्टेट, जो हमारा करंट मेथोडोलॉजी है वर्किंग में
जी,
उसमें गैप्स कहाँ पे हैं.
Okay.
कम्युनिकेशन का सबसे बड़ा गैप है उसमें. एक थॉट प्रोसेस का बहुत बड़ा गैप है. इनर्शिया जो हम बात कर रहे थे, लोगों में चेंज का ड्राइव नहीं है. जो सिस्टम्स बने हुए हैं उसमें चेंज का ड्राइव नहीं है, बिकॉज जो लोग चेंज मेकिंग पोजीशंस पे बैठे हैं वही नहीं चेंज होना चाहते हैं.
सर हम बचपन से सुनते आ रहे हैं अडैप्ट और डाई. Evolution is a human, evolution is a part of being
Exactly.
human.
Change is the
And we
only
don't
constant.
accept it, we don't adopt ourselves.
Exactly.
हमें खुद ही नहीं पता था.
So I'll give one, HSCC is a company.
Okay.
Like it adopted BIM like no other company in India. HSCC specializes in hospital construction, hospital design and management.
Okay.
So it's a PSU. It adopted BIM in less than a year. All of its projects are on BIM with a daily tracking and daily update of project progress. And that's a huge feat. No other company has done.
Okay.
I don't think so L&T is at that level as well, because L&T is a huge company.
What was the name of the company you said?
HSCC.
HSCC. Okay.
So they have adopted BIM.
Okay.
And less than a year's span. So it takes a visionary and at that key position.
Yes.
And that's the challenge. Majority of it in the construction landscape, the majority of the companies or majority of the organizations like which are there in BIM, which are there in construction, the key individuals there do not want to change. Or like, why should I think let somebody else take this?
Is there, I'm sorry, I'm coming back and we'll come back to what you're saying. Is there enough information or even programs educating students about BIM in India right now?
So
क्योंकि अडॉप्शन तो वो चलो पीछे पड़ के लोगों को अडॉप्ट कराते हैं, बट आर देयर इनफ पीपल हु अंडरस्टैंड इट?
So
क्योंकि
it's a hot
education
topic.
में तो
It's a hot topic. BIM is a hot topic. And you like going through YouTube videos, normal YouTube videos, if you are from construction industry or a student who looks around architectural projects on YouTube, you must have gone through an ad of lot of skill-based training programs for BIM and all, and you would get to know about a lot of courses, because a lot of courses are out there.
Okay.
But the irony here is our education system is a trivial education system. So nobody teaches us about software in college and importance of software in college, specifically in construction. All we are taught in college is, like, as an architect, we were taught how do we do good presentations, how do we do good design,
how to sell ourselves.
No, not at all. Like the professional, basically, so the business of design is not taught.
Okay.
It's a business at the core of it. The business of design is not taught. The business of construction is not taught.
मेरी एक फ्रेंड है, उसने इनफैक्ट शी वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ एन अर्लियर पॉडकास्ट, शी इज एन आर्किटेक्ट एज वेल. वो कहती है, ऋषभ एक बात बताऊं, अब प्रोफेशनली वी आर नॉट टॉट टू टॉक अबाउट मनी. we are not, architects are not taught to talk about the business aspect of it.
Exactly.
हमें सिखाया ही नहीं जाता.
हमें सिखाया नहीं जाता. हमारे जो गाइडलाइंस है, हमारी जो गवर्निंग बॉडी है, and I should not like
they don't basically look up on it. वो आपकी उसमें है प्रोफेशनल गाइडलाइंस में शायद, है ना?
बहुत ही कोर वर्ड है, रूढ़िवादी सोच है, मतलब ऑर्थोडॉक्स सोच है, बेसिकली बहुत ही ऑर्थोडॉक्स सोच है. चल रहा है चलने दो, सरकारी इंस्टीट्यूशन है, चल रहा है चलने दो, थ्रेशोल्ड नहीं है, कोई भी एंट्री कर सकता है. तो चैलेंजेस तो बहुत हैं. एजुकेशन में सर जो आपका पॉइंट था कि एजुकेशन में पढ़ाया जाता है, नहीं, हमें सॉफ्टवेयर्स के बारे में नहीं पढ़ाया जाता.
और कोर्सेज एक्सपेंसिव भी हैं.
कोर्सेज एक्सपेंसिव भी हैं,
हर बच्चा शायद ना भी कर पाए.
हाँ, बट अगर कोई कॉलेज जा रहा है एक आर्किटेक्चर की एजुकेशन लेने या सिविल इंजीनियर की एजुकेशन लेने, तो जैसे ड्राइंग एक लैंग्वेज है, ड्राइंग एक भाषा है, सॉफ्टवेयर एक टूल है, पेंसिल की तरह, पेन की तरह. हाथ से तो ड्राइंगें बनती नहीं है, पेन पेपर से तो ड्राइंग बनती नहीं है आजकल. तो हमें तो सिखाया गया, हमें ड्राफ्टिंग सिखाई गई है 5 साल में से 4 साल कि ड्राफ्टिंग करो, पेपर पे A4 शीट, A1 शीट पे प्लान बना के लेके आओ. और एग्जामिनेशंस में भी वही करते थे
जी.
थीसिस, पोस्ट थीसिस, कुछ ऐसे सबमिशंस जो थे वो हमने शायद डिजिटल इन्वायरमेंट में करे हैं.
ओके.
And the reason being is कि that is driven by us, that is not driven by faculty. So education community as a whole have to look into it. What systems are taught, how education is given,
because that is a very big deterrent
exactly
to adoption.
Why China is not into IT? Why India is into IT services? Because of the language barrier.
That's true. Absolutely, yes.
Language is a tool. We are taught English. Everybody you go to a street will know some English, will understand.
Yeah.
And like people come from that mass and join these companies, and that's what makes the working class.
Yeah.
And they are serving and outsourcing things out of India in IT. Why China is lagging behind us in this? They are good in manufacturing. So I know it's off topic, but it's a great analogy. We as professionals or subject matter experts are not taught these softwares in college. So we also take interns. A lot of students come to us as an intern, and they are not well versed in software.
Yeah.
Whatever they know about softwares, they have learned from their seniors or on their own or with courses. None of them have a course. Majority of them do not have a course of software in their curriculum. So that's a big challenge. अगर आप इंसान को टूल ही नहीं दोगे, टूल के बारे में एजुकेट ही नहीं करोगे, उसे मैंडेटरी नहीं बनाओगे, तो वो बंदा केपेबल कैसे बनेगा?
तो फिर एक चैलेंज और है सर, फिर चलिए मान लेते हैं that we've given that tool. Our education system is giving that knowledge to our students. Let's say, even in the आज से शुरू हो गया वो. We're trying to teach them the BIM tech, and they're basically getting that. But sites पर जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं वो तो कितने low skilled हैं. Don't you think that will again be a huge challenge as well?
So adoption of BIM के बहुत सारे challenges हैं, और yes, as we talked about it earlier, experience based industry है इंडिया में. और परसेप्शन है लो टेक इंडस्ट्री का. वो परसेप्शन साइट पे सबसे ज़्यादा होता है.
लो टेक है तो लो सैलरी है, और लो सैलरी है तो लो स्किल वाला बंदा काम कर रहा है,
और लो स्किल है तो लो आउटकम है.
लो आउटकम.
सो कंस्ट्रक्शन में जो आउटकम्स, जो क्वालिटी ऑफ आउटकम है इंडिया में अगर ख़राब है, तो कारण उसका है कि कंस्ट्रक्शन में लोग कॉस्ट कटिंग पे जा रहे होते हैं, डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट कटिंग पे. और मतलब दिस डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट, वी विल टॉक अबाउट इट, डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट कैसे कैसे इम्पैक्ट करता है चीज़ों को.
ओके, ग्रेट.
बट बिफोर दैट वी हैव टू कैटेगराइज हाउ प्रोजेक्ट्स आर स्पेसिफाइड इन इंडिया. लाइक लेट्स क्लोज ऑन द टॉपिक ऑफ द लाइक implementations of BIM, how and like how to implement BIM. So the challenges which we are facing with the current technology is lack of communication, like broken communication chain. It's not a coherent environment, and again it's a trivial tool set which requires to and fro communication. I do something, then you do something, then I do something, then you do something. Layering approach. Wherein layering approach doesn't work in a fast-paced environment. So you need to work in a synchronous environment, synchronous manner. That does not happen with traditional tool sets. So that's where implementation of BIM is necessary. And how to implement BIM, that's a very big topic. We as consultants are driven by market. Market is driven by cost, direct cost, so to say. We should come to cost because cost is a very important factor. We are
the most important factor
in India.
The elephant in the room.
Exactly, exactly. So in India, projects are awarded in L1 fashion. L1 is lowest bidder. So whosoever bids the lowest amount, in majority or in, like you'd say, there will be an exception if somebody goes with quality. Otherwise, cost is the deciding factor in India. And how do we reduce the cost?
By hiring the cheapest tech available, by hiring the cheapest labor available,
cheapest skill set available,
cheapest products, cheapest.
Exactly, you reduce the cost there. The other way of reducing cost is scalability.
So that 5 लाख क्यों लगेगा यार, 2 लाख में कर लेगा.
Exactly. So अगर आप एक जगह पे कॉस्ट कट करते हो, तो जिस काम को करने में 4 लोग लगने थे, उस काम को करने के लिए आप 2 बंदे लगाओगे. कॉस्ट नहीं है आपके पास, बजट नहीं है आपके पास करने के लिए. अगर 2 बंदे लगाओगे, आउटकम स्लो होगा, गलतियां होंगी, उन 2 बंदों पे प्रेशर भी ज़्यादा है. हमारी इंडस्ट्री में ऐसे ही नहीं लोग एक्स्ट्रा आवर्स जॉब कर रहे होते हैं.
राइट, एग्जैक्टली.
तो है चैलेंज, ये सारे हैं, लोगों को अवेयरनेस नहीं है कॉस्ट के. सो challenges which are there in adoption of BIM, one is direct cost. Why people do not understand about cost implication? Because they are only thinking about direct cost. Because when we use superior technology, first of all, it costs more. The labor or the employees who are going to work upon those tools will have a certain skill set.
Yes.
And they will charge, they will have more salaries.
Yeah.
IT infrastructure, hardware and software both. Those things. These 4 or 5 components are very important. You are going to hire a skilled labor who's going to charge you more. You are going to hire, purchase heavy systems. Everybody requires system, computers, hardwares. You require heavy hardwares which can support these sort of systems. You require good IT infrastructure. And IT infrastructure is a core. So without good IT infrastructure, you cannot implement BIM. So it is hardcore based on IT infrastructure. अगर आपके पास अच्छा IT infrastructure नहीं है आपके ऑफिस environment में, प्रोजेक्ट environment में, तो आप BIM implement कर ही नहीं सकते ढंग से. वो मस्ट है. और उसके बाद जो आपका लेबर है, टूल सेट है, इन सारी कॉस्ट को अगर आप देखोगे तो कॉस्ट आपके ऊपर चली जाती है. फिर सॉफ्टवेयर. Software is a very big component. Again, there is a challenge with software. The monopolistic approach of a lot of companies in software.
वो किसी को हिलने नहीं देते.
Exactly.
आपको उन्हीं का सॉफ्टवेयर खरीदना है उतने ही फीस पे जितना वो कह रहे हैं आपसे.
Exactly. So that is also hindrance. If you are going to pay extra for certain softwares, you are going to recover that cost somewhere. And if the client is not ready to pay you, you will not use those softwares. And if you're not going to use those softwares, you cannot expect the same outcome.
Exactly.
So like the outcome which you want to deliver will not be delivered because there is no money. And when there is no money, like the client will also get the same quality. And the irony here is we Indians do not look for perfection when it comes to things. We are only like कि काम तो चल जाएगा. That approach.
और यार बेस्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, इससे काम बनता है क्या?
Exactly.
हो जाएगा ना
बस. Exactly. So फिर वो वही है, मतलब when you are not paying upfront, you are paying somewhere. You're paying somewhere. If you are making mistakes on ground, and if you are not doing things correctly behind the curtain, that will happen in front of the curtain. अगर आपने प्रैक्टिस ही ढंग से नहीं करी है तो स्टेज पे परफॉर्मेंस करने जाओगे तो गलतियां तो होंगी,
बहुत होंगी.
कंस्ट्रक्शन में यही होता है. कितनी रिवर्किंग होती है ऑन साइट बीम डक्स के साथ.
तो रिवर्किंग हो रही है और रिवर्किंग नहीं हो रही है तो और प्रॉब्लम है. आप सोचो कि चल छोड़ना, रिवर्किंग कौन करेगा, जैसा है छोड़ दे.
बाद में फिर आउटकम जो चाहिए वो नहीं मिलता. कमरा छोटा निकल गया,
कमरा छोटा,
एयर कंडीशनिंग सही नहीं बैठी,
नई बनी बिल्डिंग में पानी भर जाता है.
एग्जैक्टली.
ड्रेनेज सही नहीं है, वजह से बहुत इश्यूज हैं.
ड्रेनेज सही नहीं है
एंड पीपल अवॉइड इट. स्पेशली आप वो बिल्डिंग अगर फर्ज करिए बंद इस पर्पस के लिए रही है कि कल को उसका एक फ्लोर बिकना है या उसको शॉप बना के बेचनी है. आप सोचो तो कि यार आई विल गिव इट यार, वो इट विल बी समवन एल्सेस प्रॉब्लम लेटर.
एग्जैक्टली.
दैट्स अनदर चैलेंज, राइट?
Somebody is going to pay for the cost. And if the building is not done properly, the ultimate saleable value also reduces. Ultimate like rentable value also reduces.
But अब वो आ रहा है धीरे धीरे ना. People are becoming brand conscious. They understand that they stand for a brand. It's not just a business. It's a brand. They want to build something long lasting. So a company can come and go, but a brand remains forever. So वो brand ideology अब आने लगी है धीरे धीरे. थोड़ा स्लो है, but maybe it's there. But direct cost शायद एक चैलेंज है जो हमारी इंडियन माइंडसेट से कभी जाएगा ही नहीं.
So why we do not work on QCBS, quality and cost basis? Why we work on L1 basis? Quality and cost should be there, na? Cost and quality should also both should be balanced.
Can we actually work like that?
That's up to
quality is very subjective matter, and then there is that likeliness of somebody, and you can't, and in a government framework at least you can't favor a certain somebody saying iska kaam acha hai isko de do, right? They'll be like, yeah, what's the vested interest? People raise questions, so you have to set a system in place saying okay, let the L1 win, or maybe they limit the number of tenders that are actually filed or the people filing them, and then there is that certification in place, class 1 contractor, etc, etc.
So that's where policy frameworks comes into picture. If you mandate something by law, then everybody has to play on the same level playing field.
We live in a country where civil engineers don't have an engineering license.
We live in a country wherein a guy can practice as an architect without any architectural degree.
That's true.
And if that is the threshold level, those people who are entering into the market without investing, without spending time into construction or taking relevant experience and relevant beating on the ground. And by beating, I mean relevant hard-churned experience on the ground. They will deliver it on a low cost because they do not understand the value of it. They do not value the inputs which goes into it.
Right.
And they will make subgrade products.
Of course
That happens. And building regulations government should implement good regulations on that front, wherein there is a threshold. Why anybody cannot practice architecture individually in US? Why it takes after the degree they have to do 3 years, 5 years of training or job under certain architects, and then they have to appear for exam, and then they can only practice after getting a license. Why it happens in US? Why it happens in Europe? Because it is regulated, so that people understand the seriousness of it. People understand the professional values, what they are doing and why they are doing.
I recorded with an architect, Manu Goyal, and she said something. She's like, designing or getting a chance to design someone's building or some sort of an infrastructural project, anything that we design is not a privilege. It's a responsibility.
It is a responsibility.
And I just kept staring at her when she said that, and it somehow resonates with what you're saying exactly, right? That awareness needs to be here, and it needs to be very conscientious, and it needs to be very individualistic, and as a firm as well, or as an individual as well.
So if you want something to be designed, if you come to an architect, let's just say you come to me that I need so and so space, I need to understand your requirement. It's not just rooms or a three-dimensional space you're looking for. You're looking for amenities in there to serve your purpose, to serve your business, to serve your residential needs or whatever you are working upon. So those needs I have to understand. How that will cost less to you, how that will give you the best outcome, how that will sustain the lifespan it should sustain as a building. That is our job. And how the user, apart from you who are going to use that place, will be comfortable in that space, and how the people who are going to work on those buildings will maintain it. So all those aspects we have to think about.
And they need to be considered.
They need to be considered before designing. That's why I was saying we architects have been taught, and that's the good part of our institution. We have been given a thought that we need to solve problems which a layman will not even understand that it is a problem. So if you go to, like, सबने मंदिर की सीढ़ियाँ चढ़ी हैं, जहाँ ऊंची ऊंची सीढ़ियाँ होती हैं, घुटनों में दर्द हो जाता है चढ़ते साथ,
जाते
सारे हैं लेकिन घुटनों में दर्द हो जाता है. क्यों दर्द होता है? सीढ़ियाँ ऊंची होती हैं. बेसिक एर्गोनॉमिक्स है. A layman who has not gone through that rigorous understanding, education, or who has not experienced, who has not developed an eye for that experience or like observation, they will not give it a thought. बन रही है, 8 इंच की स्टेप बना दो, 9 इंच की स्टेप बना दो, कोई नहीं, काम चल जाएगा.
8 इंच की चलती है.
हाँ,
ज्यादातर 8-9 इंच ही बनता है.
एग्जैक्टली. बट उन 8-9 इंच के बनाने से आपके घुटनों में दर्द होता है. ये लोगों को रियलाइज नहीं होता.
राइट.
So that's where the ergonomics comes into picture, and that's what we have been taught.
Right.
How would you feel in a space which is dark or which has a low ceiling? Those things are those are experiential things which we are taught. And like it's in the teaching. That's the good part about the teaching. But people do not value that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think we have deviated from BIM.
I'm sorry, but I think ये जितना कहा जाए उतना कम है.
हाँ, true that.
Because बार-बार एक बात को डिस्कस करने से आइडियोलॉजी शेप होती है. And sometimes the other person who's listening to it is also thinking like that. But that takes a very solemn resolve कि हाँ यार बात तो सही है. Maybe I can adopt it. And if we can change one person's thinking towards this approach, and I think we're doing a good job, right?
Yeah.
So it cannot be said enough. Sorry, and coming back to now, real time challenges जो traditional methods के हैं. मैं थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में बात करना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि अब हमने BIM की तो तारीफ कर दी, पर ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स में प्रॉब्लम क्या है? बहुत अच्छे हैं ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स, तो 100 साल बिल्डिंग खड़ी है तो कोई दिक्कत थोड़ी आती है, या डू यू थिंक देयर इज अ चैलेंज?
How to put it? You, if you're a bachelor, you would enjoy a bike.
Okay.
If you are working and you have to travel daily, in all weathers, you would prefer a car.
Okay. And maybe with family.
A hatchback. If you are a bachelor.
Okay.
If you're married and have a family and elders, you might need a bigger MUV. If you have kids, then you might need a 7-seater car. So it is the difference of time and the difference of needs.
Okay.
And difference of complexity in the family.
Okay.
So similarly, like taking this analogy to the building, buildings are still standing. A structure 2,000 year old, 3,000 year old, still standing. Pyramid still standing. There is no harm in using old technologies. And in fact, they have tested that. Like time has tested them. They are still standing. Not wrong. We have been working with 2D drawings since almost 2,000 years, and like since Roman times, 2D drawings are a way of working, and it is a proven way of working. But what are the complexities in those buildings? I'm not saying they're not complex. They are very complex. During the time they were built, they were very complex. But the singularity of use of material, the singularity of the purpose of the building, or the construction methodology, or the elements which were used in the building were not that complex or not that diverse.
Right.
That is the changing time and changing need.
Those materials are not existing anymore.
Exactly. Those materials are existing and they will always exist, but they will not serve the needs of current time.
Even the materials are not the same, sir. But if you're looking at even something as small as plumbing pipes, they were created in stone. They were created in their type of mortar, and अब तो सब कुछ change हो गया ना. We went from GI to PVC to CPVC to whatnot, right?
Agreed.
Everything is changing.
So what is happening? Those constructions were done in a low density environment to sustain a small population. The population graph is going up. India is the most populous country right now.
In the world, yes.
Yeah. And the population trend in the entirety of the globe
1.4 something billion now.
Yeah. So the population is rising, the entirety of the globe. So you need to sustain more number of people. You need to provide more housing.
Yeah.
More space for all those people to work, live. We spend nearly 90% of the time indoors. So how do you do that? You need to make buildings more efficient, less space consuming. You cannot make a 2-foot wall right now. You have to change your structural systems. You have to change your partition systems. पहले पुराने घरों में 2-2 फीट चौड़ी दीवारें बनती थी ब्रिक की. 2 फीट से 1 फीट पे आई, 9 इंच पे आई, 4 इंच पे आई. 4 इंच के बाद अब ड्राई पार्टीशंस यूज होते हैं.
Because we need more floor space. We need more
floor space. We need flexible floor space. So the times are changing. The needs are changing. So adapting to those needs, you need to introduce new technologies. So how do you arrive at a drywall? It was a technological innovation, right? Somebody has innovated it, had given a different thought. That's why. So it is happening again. So talking about the traditional tool sets, they are perfectly fine, but everything has its own limitations. So they can work for a individual house, they can work for small buildings, and they are perfectly fine. They will good outcome in low cost. But when you are talking about complex buildings, a building which require constant basically innovation and a lot of input and a lot of professionals and multiple minds working on same time, so that will require a different tool set.
Absolutely.
So that is the thought process.
अब तो complexity अलग ही है. अब तो हर एजेंसी अलग काम कर रही है. 1000 एजेंसी लग रही है बड़े प्रोजेक्ट.
एक हॉस्पिटल बनाने में एक आर्किटेक्ट काम कर रहा होता है, एक हॉस्पिटल प्लानर काम कर रहा होता है, स्ट्रक्चरल कंसल्टेंट, MEP कंसल्टेंट्स, एक लिस्ट ऑफ कंसल्टेंट है, 7 से 8 तरीके के अलग अलग कंसल्टेंट्स बेयर मिनिमम काम कर रहे हैं.
वाला अलग है, प्लम्बिंग वाले सारे आपने खरीदी अलग. उसके अलावा में there are people who are doing your woodwork, there are people who are doing your fire doors, there are people who are doing your glazings, there are people who are doing your railings, there are people, और हर एजेंसी अलग है.
We do not realize our construction industry is productized. Why can't our consultation can be productized?
Oh.
So that's a thought process. I would leave it here only.
This is a very, very well said thing. During the construction of the building, the construction is productized. Why can't the consultation be productized?
Exactly. Why we have to work in a manner that I will produce something and then you will work? How can it, like, how can we streamline it? How can we work on Six Sigma rule in the consultation industry as well?
But I have a question. In fact, I want to argue with you on something where I don't agree with you. You as an architectural firm or as an architect are adopting BIM, right? You're using BIM. आप जितने भी साल से आप काम कर रहे हो, you're working on BIM. But the agencies, other agencies that are there on the site don't do that.
That is the challenge, and that is that is one roadblock of BIM implementation in India.
What is the cost of adopting BIM? Is it too high?
Initial investment is high.
That's it. और उसके बाद जो intangibles वो बचा के देगा आपको and the cost saving that it basically pays for itself in a few years.
It is something like if you talk about project, it will definitely pay for it. It's for sure that it will pay for it.
But as a consultant?
As a consultant, it streamlines our job. It reduces our time. As I was mentioning, we showed the result to the client and then client came back. How can you do this in this speed and
you can take up multiple projects at a time, right? Because life is easier relatively. नहीं ना? मेरे को अच्छा लगा, आपकी ये हंसी बहुत अच्छी लगी क्योंकि डिज़ाइन मेरे ख्याल से जो आप पहले डिज़ाइन कर रहे थे विदाउट अ बिम सिचुएशन, टाइम शायद रिलेटिवली कम लग रहा था और अब शायद और ज़्यादा टाइम लगेगा.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है सर. मतलब कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज़ की बात है. टू एंड फ्रो कम हो जाता है.
डिपेंड्स ऑन द प्रोजेक्ट. इट इज़ कंटेक्चुअल. टू एंड फ्रो कम हो जाता है. मतलब वो जो कांस्टेंट सेट ऑफ कम्युनिकेशंस हैं वो कम हो जाते हैं. सो टू से जो प्रॉब्लम्स पहले आप देख नहीं पा रहे थे, आप उन प्रॉब्लम्स पे काम कर रहे होते हो. घर बनते थे नक्शे कागज़ पे, पहले ब्लूप्रिंट से वो सब बनता था. 2 महीना 3 महीना 4 महीना काम चलता था. फिर उसके बाद सॉफ्टवेयर आया, टाइम रिड्यूस हुआ. फिर उसके बाद अब नाउ दिस टेक इज देयर, सॉफ्टवेयर इवॉल्व होते चले गए, फिर वो टाइम रिड्यूस हुआ. इनफैक्ट इफ़ यू कॉल अप द आर्किटेक्ट को से बॉस मेरे को फटाफट मेरे को अपनी MEP ड्राइंग्स चाहिए, मुझे ये चीज़ चाहिए, थिंग्स कम इनटू यू इन अ सर्टेन टाइमलाइन. With BIM, everything is created as a whole.
Let me give you an example on
Please.
that. So, think about a feature wherein, as a consultant, you do not need to travel to a site. You need to enter a room and wear a VR headset and walk through the entire construction site wearing that VR headset.
Yeah.
In that one room, and come out, take a break, and again enter that room, do a virtual tour of another site. How much time will you save in traveling? How much cost will you save in traveling?
Can that not happen without BIM?
BIM enables you to do that.
Wow.
You can overlay that virtual environment with that real environment as in reality capture, capturing real life thing in a virtual environment, and you can overlay that. You can see it side by side and evaluate what has been done rightly, what has not been done rightly, and everything is documented.
So that's the future now?
That's the future.
And you're saying we are not even adopting BIM right now in India, तो हम वहाँ कब पहुँचेंगे?
Exactly.
सारी दुनिया पहुँचने के बाद?
Exactly. And I would not say we are not adapting, because I know clients who are progressive enough, and I would not name them.
Fair enough.
And I think their product is used by everybody, and they are adapting it. They are like, we are working with them, and they are like, we want to see this future.
Right.
We want to work in this manner, though that like we transcend the geographies of India, because we are working all around the country. We have our outpost all around the country, and we cannot manage it with a small team sitting in Delhi or sitting in Mumbai.
Right. We can't do that back and forth. And
exactly. And not everybody can travel. A guy who is into construction or project management based out of Delhi can travel 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Nobody can.
Sir, client का तो business नहीं है ना construction. Client तो अपनी factory चलाना चाहता है. Client कह रहा है let me focus on my business. Just do this seamlessly for me, right?
Exactly.
And if there is a tool out there which is enabling them to do, then okay, let's adopt to it. It doesn't disturb my peace of mind, does not disturb my day-to-day business, does not disrupt anything that I do from my schedule. Thank you for making my life easy, correct?
Exactly.
What is the landscape of BIM right now in India? Let's say, I don't know, in infrastructure projects or even in architecture or interiors.
So before that, we have to ask how the construction landscape is defined in India, how projects are categorized in India.
Okay, fair enough.
Because that way you will be able to understand why certain segments are implementing BIM, why certain segments are not implementing BIM.
Yeah.
So major categorization is public and private sector when we talk about BIM, when we talk about construction in India. So public sector projects, what sort of public sector projects? We are talking about large scale projects, infrastructure projects and medium scale projects. Public sector projects are never small scale projects.
Of course.
And private sector projects, large, medium, small and retail. So these are the categorizations in private sector projects. Now, looking at those categorization, we should talk about infrastructure, architecture and interiors.
Yeah.
These are the criteria. Yeah. These are the major broad classifications.
It covers it all,
if you draw a matrix, every project will fall into this category.
Unhi bubbles mein aa jayega.
Exactly. So infrastructure project like metro project, like Atal Tunnel, like Rapid Rail Transport System, RRTS,
yes,
like Mumbai Trans Harbour Link. These are infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
And large scale projects, what are large scale projects? A medical college, a university campus, IT park. These are large scale projects.
Okay.
Like Naroji Nagar, the IT park developed by NBCC right now. So those are large scale projects. What are medium scale projects? Let's just say a department in a medical college. It's a medium scale project. Hostels. It's a medium scale project. So those are public sector projects. Now private sector projects, institutional projects and individual projects. Institutional projects again, which is driven by a corporate or driven by a company or an agency with certain set of standards and SOPs. So large scale like Medanta, like your hospital, privately held hospitals, privately held institutions, campuses. Medium scale projects, your IT buildings, IT campuses, small IT campuses.
It's a large scale wala bana hai recently, one of the largest in the world in India has been.
That is Surat Diamond Barrows. Yeah. So again, that's a phenomenal feat.
Right.
And
what an achievement.
You should actually document that project because that's a phenomenal feat for India. So, and that's how the landscape is changing. So that's the bright side of the tunnel we are looking for. So small scale projects, small IT building, 10-story building, 15-story building. Those sort of projects are small scale projects. And retail. So retail is a segment a lot of people will not understand what is retail. Like understanding a retail in Indian market is very important. Us as an architect, it's a good business model as well. An industry as a whole is something which is driving the current real estate prices. So we were talking about real estate development in India. Retail is the driving factor of real estate. So retail is growing at a very rapid rate in India. All these brands which are coming up to serve. Yesterday itself I was reading the data somewhere that the current spending spree or spending trend in India on big brands is driven by top 4% of the earners.
Wow.
Like out of the 140 crore people, around 6 crore people are spending the money for which all the retail is developed. And that population...
High-end retail.
Yeah, high-end retail. That population is growing by 15% YOY.
Oh, wow.
And that is the projected figure for next 3-4 years.
That means purchasing power तो अच्छी होती जा रही है.
Exactly. 6 करोड़ जो आज population है, हर साल 15% से वो बढ़ रही है. So that is the bright side.
Yeah.
So the people who are like coming into the bracket of spending category are growing by this number. So उनके लिए retail बन रहा है.
Yeah.
And that retail is a very big segment. So, and And that's where a lot of implementation of BIM, the context of geography, transcending geography, the context of implementation of multiple parties in a condensed short-term environment is required, because a retail is a very fast-track project.
Okay.
And you start today, within 3 to 4 months the project is finished, the building is operational, the space is operational, people are working, that area is generating revenue. So that is how fast retail is. And in spite of being fast, it has to sustain its life cycle, which is again based on lease policies defined in country. So everything is interlinked. So 9-year lease, 12-year lease, 6-year lease, it has to sustain those life cycle.
Exactly.
And the maintenance should also be according to that, like consideration of maintenance, consideration of elements which go into that. So like whole host of things are aligned with that. So and it's a very close topic as well, because I work a lot on retail, so I understand quite well that factor. So basic criteria, basic classification falls into these. Now when we talk about infrastructure projects, as we defined earlier, either they are public sector projects or prestigious public sector projects, and then they are private sector projects with big institutions. So what do we have here? Either it is a matter of prestige or it is a matter of a high stake project. So we do not have a problem of money. So you can pull in experts from wherever you want. You can pull in the resources, the softwares, wherever, like the resources which are required, which means the consultants, best of the best construction companies, best of the best software tools. So these projects have started good implementation of BIM, because these agencies can mandate, they have the money backing to do it, and they have the motive to do it. You have to maintain the prestige. You will implement whatever you want to maintain that at all costs. You have the bandwidth to bear that extra cost, which is marginal, and you would implement that. So these companies are doing it. Then comes architecture. In architecture, small scale projects, medium scale projects, and large scale projects. Some large scale projects which are of national importance have the implementation of BIM. Not in the medium scale projects, not in the small scale projects. Both in public and private domain, they are not. In public domain, large scale projects are only having BIM implementation because there is a mandate. And there is a mandate that we require BIM. And that too, if you go deep, that BIM is a paperwork right now. BIM is just like a tick mark. Okay, we have BIM team. We will develop the BIM and submit. There is no use of BIM.
जिस तरीके से at least the way it should be used, it's not
exactly. वो लाइफ साइकिल में नहीं आ रहा, वो केवल एक सबमिशन की तरह जा रहा है. So not serving the value. In interiors, the industry is untouched. That's where we want to grow, because like retail is booming in India, interiors is booming in India, and that segment can be like pondered upon, and you see the life cycle of the project, you see the scale of the project, you see the vastness of the project. It spans all around the country. Any retail brand must have the presence in all metros, in capital cities. What amount of geography are covering? Approximately whole of the country. Now to manage it with a small team, how would you manage? So that's where the importance of BIM in this segment comes into picture, and people are not implementing it.
Okay.
Because
first early movers advantage हो जाएगा.
Exactly. So those are the segments where and the current state of BIM in the country.
Do you want to mention some softwares or tools?
There are a lot of tools with monopoly as well, and there are a lot of tools which are futuristic as well. So I would categorize in 2-3 categories. One is authoring tool. One is your futuristic development. And one is your plugins or extensions. Okay. So authoring tool can be BIM tools like BIMX and your Revit and ArchiCAD. Those are authoring tools. In which you draw out the basic bounds or develop the basic model and start feeding the information.
Okay.
Then comes the extension. Use of those extension is to add value to these tools, make your process more efficient, and improve upon the outcomes, or to automate certain jobs, repetitive jobs like Dynamo, like Grasshopper, and there are certain other tools like Dialex and all those things. So those are extension.
Yeah.
And next comes your like future like tangents or future tools or future utilities. I was mentioning like can we do the virtual tour of a site? So BIM enables that, and there are certain tools in the market which do that, like OpenSpace.ai, IO. They allow you to have a virtual tour. Matterport, they allow you to have a virtual tour of site.
Nice.
But the problem with that is implementing whole of this layered thing is that you need to educate a lot of people, right from the students who are currently in the education system to the professionals who are working, who are unwilling to change because of the lack of money. Or
it'll take some time, but we'll get there, I guess.
Exactly. It's gonna take its sweet amount of time.
But I think students especially, like, they want to adapt. AI is a very big question for them, you know. कि क्या होने वाला है हमारे साथ, AI पूरी बिल्डिंग का नक्शा बना के दे देगी. ठीक है, शायद maybe if you just feed some input into it, it will show you something.
So like
at least not now.
Why should we fear about AI? It's a assisting tool. Software is an assisting tool.
Yeah.
Any sort of software is an assistance which you get to make your job more efficient.
Yeah.
Instead of drawing it out on paper and taking it days to develop and then realizing I have made a mistake and redoing it.
Exactly.
You do it on CAD, and instead of doing it on CAD, you do it on BIM. And like with the use of AI, you can do certain monotonous things or certain things which bore you out during a job.
Yeah, you can just get them done using AI.
Exactly. You can feed in the inputs and you can get the output, and it will make your iterations fast.
Yeah.
So that should
AI is changing not just design and not just the ideology around careers. It is also changing education in the future. अगर वो change नहीं हो रहा है, then there is a problem. It will change. It has to. There is no chance that it won't change.
हम अगर एडवर्सरी की तरह देखते हैं AI को तो फिर डेफिनेटली दैट्स अ प्रॉब्लम. अगर आप AI को इस तरह से देखो कि वो तो मेरे लिए एक एडवांटेज है, टूल की तरह यूज करो. और एक टूल का काम क्या होता है? आपकी जिंदगी आसान करना. करो अपनी जिंदगी आसान.
Stay ahead of the curve. We have to stay ahead of the curve.
That's it. That's the funda. Constant कुछ नहीं है. Change is the only constant. तो हमें change अडाप्ट करना ही करना पड़ेगा. सबके ऊपर एप्लीकेबल है.
तो AI और मेटावर्स तो है ही. अब आगे ये है ही. It is going to become a part of pretty much our lives. Our social media will die. It will become metaverse.
So we are like
we will start living virtually.
Everybody is consuming content like anything.
Yeah.
So and it's a customized content everybody is looking for now. And if you're looking for a customized content, you're looking of content at your convenience.
Yeah.
That is the way to go.
Exactly.
So in that direction, yes. Metaverse is it's a digital twin of your real life.
Yeah.
So
a friend of mine said, "तू मर जाएगा, तेरा AI अवतार नहीं मरेगा. It's gonna live in the metaverse."
Exactly.
It's up to you what you create in your metaverse.
Exactly.
And you can live forever in the metaverse.
Exactly.
Which is a crazy idea to me, but it's fun, right?
Yeah.
And technology is a tool, and people need to understand that. I keep saying this to everybody. There are a bunch of students who write to me and they say you should do an episode about AI and you know how it's going to affect the design world. I'm like, it's going to make your life easy if you adapt it, if you learn to adapt it and how to harness it.
बहुत सिंपल सा एग्जांपल है. पहले मतलब हम अपने ग्रास रूट्स पे जाते हैं ना. ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन से पहले लोग हाथ से या बैल चला के खेत को जोतते थे, ट्रैक्टर से जोतते थे. फिर उसके बाद और फिर कटाई के लिए मशीनें यूज़ होने लगी. पहले लेबर काम करते थे. कितने लेबर काम करते थे एक एकड़ के खेत की कटाई के लिए. फिर ट्रैक्टर आया, लाइफ इजी करी. सबकी जॉब्स चली गई क्या? नहीं. किसी और जॉब में इन्वॉल्व हो. एग्जैक्टली. तो आप माइक्रो पिक्चर देखते हो. जब यहाँ तो लेबर काम करता था, लेबर की जगह मशीन आ गई. मैक्रो पिक्चर देखो ना, लेबर वो जो काम करता था अब किसी दुकान पे काम कर रहा है वो बंदा. शायद उसकी लाइफ जो एक लेबर की लाइफ थी उससे बेहतर है आज, उससे ज़्यादा कमा रहा है, उससे ईजी लाइफ है. तो मतलब हमारा माइंडसेट बहुत नैरो है, या हमें जो बताया जाता है वो बहुत नैरो माइंडसेट से बताया जाता है।
I think वो हमने मूवी देखी है ना कि machines are taking over and terminators and what not, right? So I think that fear also arises from the stories that we hear or the movies that we watch, but it's not rational. Of course, it'll eventually become a whole, and ये अपने आप के अंदर एक बहुत लंबा discussion है. But I'm glad that the BIM process and that BIM technology is in tandem with the future aspects of AI and on
It
metaverse.
is.
And that is the way forward. So I don't know why we are discussing challenges. People should be actually already on it. And ये जो भी hindrances हैं, be it a psychological hindrance, be it a mental resolve that I don't want to change, a fixed mindset, or be it any sort of a even financial aspect to it. You mentioned software companies having monopolistic fees that they charge, and I'm sure there are some rebels out there who are working against them as well. But I really hope that this catches on, because I really want to see some beautiful BIM models, and I want to understand how it works in the future as well. And maybe I'll come and visit you where we can see some of the models that you've done. It will really help us to understand things.
Definitely, anytime.
Thank you so much for today, Siddharth. I know आज हमारा discussion थोड़ा हमने लंबा खींच दिया, but I think there is a lot of value out there, especially with BIM, because BIM has been a constant discussion wherever I go. In any space I enter, be it a concrete engineers association, be it an architect's office, be it even a university or school, college, or wherever we go, BIM, especially in the civil engineering part or the architectural part of the world, is a huge topic right now. Internet भरा हुआ है पूरा BIM की knowledge से, and questions on Quora are also like spurting everywhere. Thank you for clearing some doubts. Thank you for sharing the challenges with the Indian industry and our mindsets also. I think there is a lot to learn. And I think if people have some questions, I will redirect them to your email, and maybe you can get back to some of the queries that they have.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, sir. This was architect Siddharth Agrawal from Builten, and we spoke about the challenges in the implementation and adoption of BIM in India. And if you have any questions for him, write to me at buildmatepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at buildmatepodcast. हमारे YouTube channel का नाम भी same है @buildmatepodcast. Just search for us. Spotify, Threads, LinkedIn, we're there everywhere. Reach out to us, follow us, message me. I would love to answer your questions. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. 2 घंटा चल गया.
हाँ, 2 घंटे हो गए ऑलमोस्ट.
और एडिट आउट करेंगे तो देखते हैं. पहले मैं देख लूँ ये हुआ है ना सारा रिकॉर्ड.